Hi, I'm Heather Grant. Now, when it comes to climate change, everybody has their own opinion. So we came to the streets of downtown Saskatoon to find out what you had to say.
I don't know, obviously it's colder this year than last year, so something's going on.
I think this year we might all say yes. I think there's some effect on our climate from the way we're doing things, yeah, for sure.
Well, it seems like it's unusual that Saskatoon has had such a long winter and a short spring.
It's actually quite important that we think about it because of all the toxins and chemicals that are in the air.
It was equally kind of this weather in the 60s and 70s, so maybe there's a little bit, maybe people are a little bit aggressive about saying it's climate change, but then again, maybe not.
So you wonder if they can make the changes necessary to prevent it from getting worse.
I think we do need to have some type of process that we control that, because when you look at global warming, there's a lot of concerns about that, the air quality, and a lot of other things I think we should really focus on. It's very important.
There are many different ways to think about the environment, and scientists at the Saskatchewan Research Council are drawing attention to some of the potentially huge climate changes taking place in our province in the near future. Simon Hyatt has a closer look.
The growth of Saskatchewan and the changes that have happened here over the past century have been dramatic, but they could pale in comparison to what's coming in the next 100 years. Dr. Jeff Thorpe, a scientist at Saskatchewan Research Council, has released a study based on research that indicates temperatures everywhere will rise significantly and cause the climate to become drier, which he says will impact ecosystems on the prairies.
One of the main things we looked at was the way that the zones of vegetation depend on climate. And basically what it shows is that with this warming, all the zones will shift northward.
Thorpe says this means more of the province will become covered in the grasslands ecosystem we see primarily in the south, replacing forested areas that now exist in the north. This has the potential to greatly affect not only the animals and birds that call these areas home, but also humans.
In the forest, we have people making a living from forestry, and some of that land will not be suitable for forest production eventually. We're not sure how soon. And so, this will have an impact on the forest industry. On the other hand, we might have new land that's suitable for livestock grazing.
Recreation could also take a hit, as lakes and the areas that surround them are predicted to look significantly different in the coming decades. And while Thorpe says some changes will be gradual, others could happen more quickly.
One thing that kind of seems like a warning bell is we had a serious drought here about 10 years ago, 2001, 2002. We saw quite a few trees die during that drought, and it was very well studied and so on. So, that kind of forest dieback could make the change happen fairly rapidly in some cases.
Thorpe says this shift likely isn't the result of cyclical climate changes, but is directly related to human actions, specifically the release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Although much of the damage has already been done, he believes there are things we can do to lessen the impact of climate change on prairie ecosystems.
The native prairie that's out there is a very good part of the landscape in terms of helping us to cope with climate change. In other words, it's very resilient to changes in weather. You've got lots of different species, and it's lasted for 10,000 years. So it's another argument for prairie conservation.
In Saskatoon, I'm Simon Hyatt reporting.
We will have more from the Saskatchewan Research Council coming up, but first we find out how the city of Saskatoon has become an environmental leader. Our Heather Grant dives into one of its past projects that's making a splash in the community.
When visiting Harry Bailey Aquatic Centre or Lawson Civic Centre, you may notice something on the roof. Did you know that they both use solar panels to heat some of their pools?
The panels were installed in December of 2010, so they've been operational for a little while now, and we've been achieving very good results with those installations.
When they were installed, they were the largest solar panel installation in Saskatchewan.
So we've got 90 panels that are installed at the Lawson Civic Centre and another 78 at Harry Bailey.
They work by using heat from the sun to warm a glycol solution. The solution then flows to a heat exchanger, transferring energy to heat the pool. About 20% of the heat needed is provided by the solar panels. and the city is already noticing savings.
Those panels will have paid for themselves in about 10 years, and then any utility savings we achieve after that is just a bonus to the taxpayers.
If they heated more, and actually I think we need more pools for the kids.
Well, I think it's a good idea. I mean, utilizing whatever renewable resources are out there. I think it would be a good idea. It's just expensive to start into, but yeah, I agree with it.
Solar panels make use of renewable energy, which lessens the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that would be seen with coal-based energy.
So each year, there's about 111 tons of greenhouse gases that are being saved, and that's equivalent to about 21 vehicles being removed from our roadways every year.
Having solar panels on a couple of Saskatoon's leisure centers is just one way the city is approaching green initiatives. They have already activated the curbside recycling program and have found success with composting depots, but they won't stop there. The city of Saskatoon is always looking to expand their relationship with the environment. For Shaw TV's Earth Day, I'm Heather Grant in Saskatoon.
Agriculture is a big part of our economy and a way of life in Saskatchewan, but farming also leaves behind a large amount of waste. As Simon Hyatt shows you, local researchers have found a way to turn that leftover material into something useful.
The crops removed from fields across Saskatchewan help feed the world. But what about the stuff that's left behind after the harvest?
If you look at straw left over, for example, just straw from wheat, barley, canola and oats, I believe I'm not sure about the scale, but it's in the tens of megatons of straw produced every year, just in Saskatchewan.
While the residues from crops have some uses for animal feed or other applications, it often has to be trucked away or burned on the field. Scientists at the Saskatchewan Research Council are working on a method of converting these remnants into higher value materials. The residue is placed into this machine where it meets steel shot that has been heated to 500 degrees Celsius.
And when that contacts in the unit, contacts the wheat straw, you get that very quick whoosh vaporization of material. So that contact between the hot shot and our wheat straw is basically your pyrolysis.
The pyrolysis leads to 3 byproducts: oil, which can be converted into heating fuel, a solid char material, which is also combustible but can be used as a soil additive, and a gas that is reused within the machine itself to heat the component which dries the raw material.
And the reason we have the dryer is you want your material, your wheat material, to be quite dry, because the more water you have left in your biomass, the more water you're going to end up with in your bio-oil that you're going to want to remove. So we use that right on the unit so we can reduce, for example, how much propane we're using.
The idea of pyrolysis isn't an entirely new one. What makes the SRC research different is they are exploring ways to make the technology mobile, and therefore more accessible and economical for agricultural producers.
Things like wheat straw, they're expensive to transport, right? Because you have a large volume of low-value material that you're moving around. So instead, you can bring the unit to the residues and then, for example, be transporting a product like the bio-oil.
Dr. Powell says we are likely a few years away from the technology being commercially viable. But if the research continues to show promise, it could have a tremendous impact. They have experimented with wheat and flax straw and even poultry litter, and up to a ton of residue could be processed by a given machine per day, encompassing a wide array of waste products.
There's even been studies done on using things like tires. You could technically pyrolyze, a wide variety of materials.
For Shaw TV's Earth Day, I'm Simon Hyatt in Saskatoon.
Well, we've seen what people in our province are doing above ground to be environmentally conscious, but now we take a look at something underground that has gone mainstream. Geothermal heating and cooling systems have increased in popularity, and Lisa Rism has more on the provincial and federal grants available for those going green.
It's the hottest trend in home heating on the market. Geothermal installers are seeing their busiest year to date.
We've been busy. We're flat out right now. We will be right through the summer and into the fall. There's new bookings coming every day.
Saskatchewan building permits have seen a 26% increase since last year. That, combined with an upswing in home renovations, have more people switching, especially when comparing the cost of natural gas, oil, propane, and power.
I got a quote of almost $15,000 more for the natural gas to come to the yard than the complete system with geothermal. I would have a monthly bill, plus I would still have to buy the furnace and everything else.
Currently, the province will subsidize loans through TD Canada for residential geothermal installation, but there are several other reasons for the conversions.
A lot of what we're seeing lately is the old boiler systems. We want to get rid of that. We'd like to go on holidays, but we can't leave because somebody has to monitor our boilers. There are those as well that are getting into the green aspect of it, zero emissions, so on and so forth, especially in the new build. I mean, the payback on these systems is relatively quick, depending on the design of the system, but that's another reason that people get into it.
A national geothermal supply company has seen consistent growth in the industry.
The last 10 years, we've grown leaps and bounds. Nationwide, we're seeing an average increase of 30 to 40% in geothermal sales pretty well every year now.
Geothermal works with nature. The ground holds a constant temperature of 10 to 20 degrees year-round. In a horizontal layout, a network of pipes are buried 9 to 11 feet deep. A water antifreeze mixture fills the pipes. As it circulates, a heat exchanger transfers the heat into the building through forced air or radiant heat. Geothermal can also be drilled vertically or into water bodies.
Instead of the horizontal loop system, we can do a vertical, which is drilled down. Lake cottages, small acreages where you don't have the room, it's a definite option, works just as well.
After paying for the installation of geothermal, there is no monthly bill, but it does need power to operate. For Shaw TV's Earth Day, I'm Lisa Rism in Prince Albert.
The geothermal loan program is sponsored by the province, and you can visit the website on your screen for more information. After the break, we hit the streets to find out how you are being energy efficient at home. And still to come on Earth Day Saskatchewan, used tires are hitting the road to be reused on the province's first Earth House. And we meet a family from Kelowna who has made their entire home energy efficient.
My name's Paul Hogan, 55 years old, family operated a dairy farm up until about 6 years ago here on the island, and now I'm a wind farmer. I think we've relied far too long on anything pulled out of the ground to power our world, and it's costly, it's polluting the environment, and to me it's wind is free, wind is available. I am green power.